Big day planned for you here as we go down the road. Let me give you an example. You're dreading it. Admit it. You're dreading it. Tax day is coming. Granted, we've got a little extension. We can go into May, but most people are focusing on that April 15th date. Ryan Rauschenberger is going to join us at some point today. We're going to get to talk to the North Dakota Tax Commissioner about taxes. Bill Werner is going to join us from the Minnesota News Network. Obviously, what's playing on down in the Twin Cities has got the attention of the nation. If not, I think you could make the argument, the world. And so we'll talk to Bill Werner about that. The Brooklyn Center shooting and how that's playing into what's going on with the Derek Chauvin trial. And, of course, it's a powder keg. And so we're going to head there. Also, we're going to head out to Medora today. We're going to talk to the Theodore Roosevelt Foundation and find out what they have planned. But we're going to begin with Dave Adams. Now, Dave is the campus pastor at Concordia and worship pastor at NDSU's Lutheran Campus Ministry, which scares the heck out of me. Tells me he knows what he's doing. Dave, good to have you coming down the road with me.
Thanks for inviting me, Joel.
I promise I'll behave.
Thank you.
For at least these minutes.
I'll try my best.
Whenever I'm in the room with the Reverend, I'm like, okay, what would Ray and Doreen Heitkamp be saying right now? They'd be saying, clean up your language, behave. Okay.
That's a stretch for you, right?
Yeah. Right, it is. I'm working. It's a work in progress. Want to talk, and one of the reasons that we wanted you to come in was we were talking about church membership dropping below 50% for the first time. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that those of us that are in the church, we look at, and it's alarming, it's concerning. Of course, a lot of us remember then that membership doesn't necessarily correlate to attendance and involvement within the congregation. So if we focus on that, it helps us to have a little bit more hope. Because, I mean, membership in general is something that churches are starting to see as just not important anymore for their life together. It's not like it was back in the 50s and 60s when that was how people were a part of their congregation, was they became members of a congregation. Now people find that they go to a church, they participate in the church, but they don't necessarily feel like they have to have this membership, this exclusive membership.
Are people still going, though?
Oh, yes.
There's butts in the seats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this has definitely been a weird year for churches, but yes. And like some of my friends are talking about how right now they're like, one of my pastor friends who's in a rural congregation said that last Sunday they welcomed 5 new families to their congregation. Okay. So that was huge for them. Yeah.
I want to look at some of the statistics and then get your take on them. Let's roll with the first one, guys, and we'll get a chance to look at some of the numbers that we're seeing there. This is church membership among U.S. adults, which is now below 50%. You're seeing where it used to be in 1940. And then you're seeing where it's gone to as we decline. Obviously, a little jump there in 1945. I would argue World War II had a lot to do with a lot of need then for spiritual leadership. And then, of course, you see it going down. And you see it going down. And so it does beg the question, Reverend Adams, why?
Why? Yeah.
Why?
Well, some churches that aren't necessarily mainline Protestant churches like Lutheran churches are actually doing away with membership structures in their church where they don't have people become official members of the church. Other churches, like there are some churches that people keep their membership at, even though they don't even live in the same town, but that church has a lot of family meaning to them or historical significance.
And they want to keep it open.
They want their membership to be kept there. But I have never served at a church where to be a member, that means that you pay dues or you have obligations to the congregation. That's always up to the individuals and to the giving units of a congregation to decide on.
The next question I got, though, is a two-part question.
Okay.
Number one, have churches and faiths kept up with the people that would have been their members or the people they're serving? Do you believe that there's a generation that believes, because, look, this was the church my parents have gone to. Mm-hmm. My faith has changed. I think my parents were wrong about some of what I was taught, and the church hasn't evolved.
Yes.
Do you think that that's true?
Absolutely. And working with young people, we see that. We see college students who really are stepping away from institutional ministry, institutionalized religion, if you will. They definitely believe that God is active in the world, but they don't necessarily see that action happening within a structured institution. And part of that's because of what you just said, because institutions are messy. They're human made, so they're always going to have complicated rules and bylaws and bureaucracy, and people just don't want that.
I want to go back to the service itself, though.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm Catholic.
Okay. I grew up Catholic.
Yeah. and being in a Catholic service, you could time what's going to happen in that service literally within a minute on your watch.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. At this point, we're going to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to joke, which I realize for many of our viewers, they're going to be, this isn't a joking matter, Heitkamp, but we sold papers outside the church. The Heitkamp family did, and I'd be sitting there coming back from communion, I'd be like, I'm out at halftime.
Yeah.
A little bit later, as a kid, and it was past halftime, but you could find exactly the length of the homily. You could find, is that wrong?
No, that's pretty. Again, when you're in a large church, especially, I worked in youth ministry and worship ministry at a large church in Grand Forks for 16 years, where there's a lot of moving parts on a Sunday morning. You've got Sunday school, you've got adult education, you've got 2 different worship services happening at the same time, and then a break, and then 2 more services happening at the same time. So things have to kind of run like a well-oiled machine, or else there's problems.
Right.
The parking lot is clogged, and no one can park.
I can vouch for that for my daughter's church in town here at Hope Lutheran. It's,
right. Yeah. So no, I mean, I was the same way. Like, I'm still the same way. Like, I look at my watch and I'm like, oh, we better hurry up or we're going to be long. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
What about the faith itself? And I'm going to go back to my religion because it's what I know. Yeah. Okay. In my religion, you got married. You would never see an instance where there was a young family with a child that wasn't married.
Oh, sure.
And I think that there's a lot of my friends that didn't get married, that had children, and they didn't feel comfortable or welcome in the church. Is that happening? Are people's lives, because they want to live them a certain way, telling them that, hey, and I'm not just trying to pick on the Catholics,
no.
picking on any faith, that, hey, this doesn't fit who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's multiple denominations, and within each denomination, there's multiple expressions of that denomination. So there are churches that are, like, for example, at Concordia and at Crossroads Lutheran Campus Ministry, we are something called Reconciled in Christ, which means that we are openly affirming of all people. Regardless of your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, anything. We are completely open and affirming, and we welcome all people. And so it doesn't matter, like if you're married and you have children, or if you're not married and you don't have children, or if you're not married and you have children, it doesn't matter. Like, all are welcome, and we're there together to really celebrate that living presence of God among us through each other. There are other congregations that definitely, the way that they preach, the way that they teach, they teach a much different, more literal theology, which would make people feel unwelcome then, and so then they leave. But then that kind of gets them back into that. They're not necessarily stepping away from faith and spirituality, they're stepping away from the institution.
Right.
Yeah.
And they find a new institution.
They do. They find a new one. They
do.
find one that expresses faith and spirituality, that lets them feel affirmed and welcomed and invited into the mission.
If they feel this is right.
Yeah.
If they know it is right in their life, and they're being told it's completely wrong here, they're going to quit going.
They're going to quit going, Which is why you see a drop in membership, absolutely. Membership, though.
Yeah.
And it seems like even people our age, when I'm in my mid-40s, and even people my age are finding less of a need to claim a membership of a congregation, but that doesn't mean that they don't still have an active part of that congregation. It's just harder for the church to track them.
What about what it takes to run a church? Because if I write a check out membership to my church, period, plain and simple. I want the heat to be on. I want the lights to be on, right? And it's my job.
And thank you for doing that. That is the hardest thing to tell someone,
But it's the truth. I mean, and you deserve a living just like I deserve a living. So, with less members, have we seen the church's budgets drop?
I mean, there's yes and no to that, because non-members still can give to the church.
But are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have worked at large churches where some of the biggest givers are not members there, where they're not even necessarily Lutheran. They still claim, like we've had people who are still technically Catholics, but they participate in the Lutheran church that they go to, and they give financially, they support the different ministries that the churches will raise money for. So absolutely, people can.
Do people come back? Let me give you another example of children, okay? You have children, you've stepped away from regular Sunday or Saturday or whatever attendance of your faith.
Yeah.
And because you now have children and you know how important it was to you as a youngster to have that connection with God, do they come back then when that child becomes old enough to really experience and know where they're at?
Yes, that's a very common thing that we see. People will often step away from the church once they graduate from high school, but then they'll come back once they get married and have children, or don't get married but have children, and or they're looking to get married. That's another time that people will often start to look for a church to belong to.
What about weddings themselves? Because I've seen a statistic that showed that there's 70% of the people that get married now don't get married in a church.
Absolutely. And when I see that as a pastor, I often do weddings at venues, well, especially during COVID. I did like 3 weddings at outdoor venues this last summer, but yes, lots of people now are not getting married in a church anymore. They're getting married at an all-inclusive venue where they can have the service and the reception and everything right there.
Which can drive you away from the church. If you're told you have to get married in the church, people will be like, I don't have to. I mean, I get that choice.
Well, and anyone, you don't have to do much. Every state has different laws, but it's pretty easy for you to get to be a certified officiant for a wedding today.
I've married 11 people, and I'm 10 for 10, and I don't know about the 11th because they were in Sturgis. How's that? But it wasn't the same type of wedding.
Right.
It was about a wedding that I wasn't trying to pretend that I was their connection to God.
Yep.
All joking aside. I mean, okay, I realize we're short on time now, but why people should connect with God? I'm not going to let you leave without you having the opportunity to answer that.
Well, that's a loaded question. I guess that I believe that connecting with God is more than just knowing that God is present. It's like I feel God's presence right now talking to you because we're actually talking about faith. We're sharing conversation. We're sharing space together. That is what I believe is the biggest reason why people should be connecting with churches, is because Jesus did not do ministry all by himself. He did ministry with his friends, with people, and he told them.
He didn't always do it in the church.
No, he didn't actually. Yeah. Right. But he, and he told them together to go out and bring people into this mission.
When did you know you had the calling? What age?
Well, I don't know. I didn't probably really accept it till I was in college or beyond. But my mom tells the story about when I was a kid and I was an altar boy. The priest of the church that I was at in Williston said to her one day, "Kathy, mark my word, one day David's going to work in the church." And she said, "I don't know that he'll be a priest." He said, "I didn't say he'll be a priest. I said that he's going to work in the church one day."
He may want to get married and have a family. So, Reverend, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joel, really.
Pastor Dave Adams. When we come back, Ryan Rauschenberger, the subject nobody wants to talk about. We're going to talk about it. Taxes, right after this.
Howdy folks, it's the Kaelee Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay-bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Kaelee burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur-rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser,
that reveals objects up to 150 yards away hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention, have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I told you, the dreaded subject, and don't blame my next guest for that. He's just doing his job. Ryan Rauschenberger, he's North Dakota State Tax Commissioner. Let's bring him in. Ryan, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Well, thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You know, people like you. You wouldn't keep getting elected to the job, but I don't know too many people that like tax collectors. You must take a lot of ribbing about that.
I do. I mean, it's a biblically hated position. I mean, my job is biblical when you think about it, and yeah, it is. It's It's odd running for an elected position when you're a tax collector.
I want to talk.
It's odd in the nation, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, how many states have an elected tax commissioner?
We're really the only one. There's a couple other states that have more of like a controller OMB elected position, but this is really the only true tax collector that's elected. Yeah. They're all really appointed by the governor otherwise.
Speaking as a brother of a former tax commissioner, I can tell you that you do rib tax commissioners a lot. Her name got brought up a lot in the family, and basically she got sick of it after a while.
Well, and I'll just take one quick second, Joel, if I can. I want to mention that, speaking of your sister, Heidi, this plant is Heidi's.
Really?
This was here when she was in the legal department, and she brought it into this office when she became commissioner in the 80s, and it's been in this office ever since. This is Heidi's plant. And I'm not kidding. We still call it Heidi's plant.
Well, thanks for throwing some water on it every now and then.
Yeah, it's doing great.
You know, the rules are changing a little bit about when you got to file your taxes, normally April 15th, but walk people through what some of the deadlines are this year.
So it's a good point, Joel. So the federal government pushed back the filing deadline federally to May 17th. So the IRS pushed that back. And you have to have your federal return completed and filed with your state return. So within 24 hours of that happening, we as a state pushed back the state filing deadline to mirror the federal deadline. So in North Dakota, treat May 17th just like April 15th. So, you know, it's April 13th right now. You do not have to have your taxes in by the 15th like normal. There's no penalty, no interest. You can wait to have it filed or postmarked by Monday, May 17th. So you get an extra 32 days this year to file your taxes. A lot of people at this point that haven't filed have to owe in. So you get to keep those, you get to keep those dollars in your pocket for an extra month to help make ends meet, and gives you a little more time to prepare your returns.
And part of the reason I would guess that you have that choice of whether or not to go with the federal criteria is there's been a separation. I mean, there wasn't some years back, we in North Dakota were tied to the federal tax, and it was based upon the federal government, was it not?
It was. We were actually tied to whatever you owed federally. Then you had a percentage of that equated to your North Dakota income. So we're still tied federally in a way that the definition of income and a lot of the information that we rely on is on your federal return. So we're still quite tied and we follow federal definitions of income and exemptions and all that. But we were even more tied years ago. But you're right. We do have that flexibility administratively to push that deadline back, and we really need to. And other states had to do it too, because so much of the information we rely on is on the federal return. So we're glad that they didn't go past the biennium, because then we would have a fiscal situation when money comes in. But because they only moved it a month, we were able to do it administratively this year, which is good for the taxpayers. It gives them more time to prepare and, again, like I mentioned, keep money in their pockets a little bit longer.
In the case of North Dakota and income taxes, when you say that we mirror the federal, are there deductions that we can get through North Dakota? Things that we can point out in our North Dakota income taxes, though, that we might save a buck or two compared to the federal?
There are different deductions in North Dakota that aren't necessarily on the federal return. For example, something that passed in 2019, and this is a good reminder because it's pretty new, we exempt Social Security for folks who make, I believe, $50,000 up to $50,000 for a single filer, and $100,000 for married filing joint. So that's a deduction that's something that's taxable federally, but in North Dakota you can get that exemption, and it won't be considered income in North Dakota. So if you make $50,000 or less and have Social Security that's taxed, that's exempt now in North Dakota. And or married filing joint up to $100,000, and retired military pay. So if you get military pay, that's taxable federally, but we now exempt military retirement pay, and that was both of those are new and passed in 2019. So good reminders, because it's fairly new. We've only had one. Last year was the first season that was part of the law, last filing season. So reminders of what you can get deductions for.
Okay. What about those other individuals that might live in a different state for a certain period of time? It seems like the snowbirds are staying longer in those southern states. Are they, I'm just going to put it this way. Are they playing games at all with, hey, this state doesn't have an income tax, so today I'm a resident of this state? How do you gauge that? How do you gauge whether or not they have to pay taxes?
Well, really the rule is it's where you're at for 6 months plus 1 day. So it gets really subjective, because somebody can, it's a multi-state national issue, because again, the snowbird issue, a lot of people try to claim, residency in another state for tax purposes, but also think about hunting. You get back here and you try to claim to be a resident to hunt. It doesn't always work out so well, or vote back here. So it gets to be a really gray area, and something that's getting to be a bigger and bigger issue, because it's really easy to get down south, and a lot of people are spending a good portion of the year. But our rates are so low. We're not seeing that to the extent of, say, New York. A lot of New Yorkers go down to Florida and try to claim that they're Florida residents, and mainly to try to avoid New York high income taxes. But you're absolutely right.
The percentage. When I was in the legislature, we used to call it the three-legged stool. You had property taxes, you had income taxes, you had sales taxes, and that three-legged stool now has got a pretty severe slant to where income taxes really isn't, one could argue, pulling its weight. And to me, if you don't make the income, you don't pay the tax. So I've always considered it a pretty fair tax. But there's those in North Dakota that think we should get rid of a state income tax. So what percentage of overall revenue to the state does income tax bring in?
If you look at the general fund, which if you look at the general fund of the state, we collect about $1 billion in individual and corporate income tax in a biennium. So about $800 million of individual income tax, $200 million of corporate income tax. Compare that to sales tax, which is about $2 billion. They used to be about even. But remember, individual income tax rates are about half of what they were a decade ago. So you're right, that leg of the stool has decreased. And oil, and we'll put about $1 billion of oil into the general fund this biennium. And now we have legacy fund earnings, which is another leg. So I kind of kiddingly, I kind of kicked out the three-legged stool and now say we kind of have a five-legged stool. Legacy earnings is going to be larger than income tax in just a few years. But because right now, income tax is maybe 20% of the $5 billion general fund. The general fund budget will be about $5 billion, so $1 billion would be about 20%, including corporate income tax. So that's both.
Ryan, thank you. Thanks for the time. You know, if people have questions of you and just their taxes in general, where do they go? What do they do?
Well, they should go to nd.gov/tax. That's where you can get in contact with any of our sections. You can get directly to somebody on the phone. We're focusing right now, and I just want to mention that unemployment is also exempt here in North Dakota, up to $10,000, $200 that was passed under the American Rescue Plan Act. We're going to be automatically adjusting those returns for tens of thousands of people who've already filed. So if you're out there and you've already filed your income tax and had unemployment taxed, we're going to be issuing you a refund check, and we're doing that automatically. Okay. We're not making you file an amended return, just kind of a public service announcement that if you've already filed and you paid on your unemployment, that law changed federally in March, we're going to be issuing out refund checks to tens of thousands of North Dakotans because that law changed and when we follow the federal law. So just a quick note for all those listeners.
Well, you just made some people smile. So, Commissioner, thank you for coming down the road with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. When we come back, Bill Werner is going to join us. Bill is with the Minnesota News Network. We all know what's going on in the Twin Cities. We all know how volatile it is. Let's visit with Bill Werner about it when we come back.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single-game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. Bucks football, half the field and double the fun.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity. How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Fleece Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Well, there aren't many people in the state of Minnesota that don't know who Bill Werner is. Bill is a long time been involved in media with the Minnesota News Network, and he's a voice that people trust when it comes to a lot of the information. Of course, I think the nation's eyes are upon the Twin Cities, the Derek Chauvin trial, and of course, the recent shooting that we had at Brooklyn Center. And so I wanted to get a chance to visit with Bill about that. Bill, welcome to Down the Road. Good to have you coming.
It's good to be with you under tough circumstances, needless to say. You hate to say it's feeling a little bit like last summer in the Twin Cities right now. I mean, the tension is palpable.
Yeah. In your particular case, I'm sure you're getting tugged a lot of different directions, because when I say that the eyes of the nation are upon you, true or not, because you must have a lot of people trying to contact you.
Well, yeah, and really the eyes of the world on this. We've had inquiries from a radio network in Australia, as an example, that wants to know what's going on, and certainly there are other folks. Yeah, there's no question about this. I mean, what we have here is a situation where, first of all, the eyes of the world are on the Twin Cities because of the Derek Chauvin trial, and then we have this incident that occurred. I don't think I'm not supposed to editorialize as a reporter, but this is a tragedy by any standards. It looks as if it was an error on the part of the officer, although certainly the investigation will determine whether that is indeed the case. I'm sure that a lot of your viewers have seen the body cam video that was released yesterday, and the officer is saying, "Oh, you know what? I shot him." Well, how is that interpreted? We don't know what's in the officer's mind, obviously, but at least that immediate reaction seems to indicate that it was an error. Now, we'll have to see what the investigation shows. But that coming at a time that we have a lot of tension anyway because of the Derek Chauvin trial, folks are going to, regardless of the facts of the situation, and it's just like last summer in Minneapolis when we had this man who was being pursued by police, and he killed himself in broad daylight in view of all passersby on the Nicollet Mall, a half a block from Target's flagship store, right, where the corporate headquarters is. And that melted down there too, because the rumors flew on the internet, on social media, that this guy was killed by police. Well, that must be the truth, because that's what happened with George Floyd. So the issue in Brooklyn Center, what are really the facts of this? Is that really what's driving it? No, what's driving it is really the frustration in the communities of color that arose out of the George Floyd case, but existed much before that. So that's why we've got this tension, and why it's the flashpoint.
And I know this is breaking news, but in Minnesota, the police officer that shot Dante Wright has resigned. That cannot be too big of a surprise to you.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there were calls for her firing. She's a 20, I believe 20, let me look at my notes here, 25-year veteran of the Brooklyn Center Police Force. So she's not a rookie by any means, 48-year-old woman. It's a question of, and a number of people have brought this up, probably most notably to this point, St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter said, why do we have these tasers that are similar in shape and appearance to handguns? Why don't we do this differently? And apparently at some point in the past, they did look a bit more different than they do now, but there are questions about how do you perhaps you have these various weapons, one of which is a weapon but not lethal, and one that is a weapon that's highly lethal. How do you differentiate those? And under the circumstances, the officer in an emergency situation like that, despite being obviously a seasoned officer, is this one of the questions I think that will come up is this a situation where she had encountered before a similar situation to this? Clearly, there's pandemonium in these situations. We can see that from the body cam video. So it's a question of what level of prior experience, actual firsthand experience beyond training, did the officer have with this kind of a situation. I suspect, and again, I'm not in the minds of Joel, of the minds of the BCA investigators, okay? But I have to believe these are questions that are being asked and answers are being sought at this time.
You know, for me, it's really what happened with George Floyd versus what happened with Daunte Wright are just, I said this on my radio show today, they're apples and oranges. They're two completely different circumstances, yet tied together. And the timing couldn't have been worse. I mean, it just simply couldn't have been worse.
And I think the mayor of Brooklyn Center said that yesterday, that yes, the timing could clearly not have been worse. Yes, you are correct. These are apples and oranges kinds of situations. Particularly when we get into the area of possible intent, right? Okay, and that's the thing that's being examined. It's about 6 blocks from where I sit now at Hennepin County, at the government center, right? In the trial itself, as intent of Officer Derek Chauvin. What was the intent of the Brooklyn Center officer? We don't want to jump to conclusions. At least at this point, it looks like those are totally, as you say, totally different situations. But the way it plays out in the politics and the frustration of, and I mean, you can see the color of my face, okay? I can't speak for African-American people by any standard. I can't do that. But I think I can at least a little bit sense the frustration of having this happen over and over and over again. And here is one more incident where an African-American man is dead, a young man, at the beginning of what should have been a long life, right? And he is dead. And now maybe that didn't happen in the same way as it happened to George Floyd, but it still says, the community is still saying we have to address this. And there are folks at the legislature now, just got off of a Zoom call with the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus, demanding that the Senate hold hearings on this. The Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka is having a press conference to announce that they're going to hold hearings on public safety, and therefore, where is it going? And we'll find out. That's how it's going to play out from a political standpoint at the Minnesota legislature.
You know, I look at this and you take a step back and you ask, okay, how do you deal with the circumstances today? And I'm not talking about the Chauvin trial where, okay, you're sitting there, for me personally, and you're wondering what that conviction could be, and he's going to get convicted of something, whether it's manslaughter, that's my personal belief. It's not your job to editorialize. I get that.
Well, no, whether that happens remains to be seen. Yeah, there are folks on either side of that. I think that we, without speculating too far down the road, if there's not a conviction, a substantial conviction, there's a lot of fear as to where this is going to go.
And that's what I was building to, Bill. But when you look at this last night, last night when you look at Brooklyn Center and what happened, the National Guard being called out, I was watching this. I was watching the protest, and I was watching what it could have turned into. And obviously, some of these people didn't adhere to the curfew. No big surprise to law enforcement, no big surprise to you in the media. But I wonder if having the National Guard come out didn't make that crowd smaller. It didn't stop it from getting to be the size and as rowdy as it could have been. And I'm curious what you think.
I think you're absolutely right, Joel. Let's look at what happened last summer after George Floyd's death. And that took a couple of days to gain steam, and then people started arriving from other parts of the country, and social media cranked up. And at that point, it got beyond what law enforcement anticipated. And the state public safety officials acknowledged that. I mean, Senate Republicans put those guys on the grill, right? And the state public safety commissioner said, and I think I'm paraphrasing John Harrington correctly here, he said, he did not anticipate it was going to be to the degree that it was. When he realized that, then obviously they take action, right? So, and this kind of a similar situation happened, a miniature version of it happened after this man killed himself on the Nicollet Mall, right? And then that area of the city was trashed a little bit later in the summer. And there have been other incidents, but it's pretty clear that the political leadership and the public safety leadership in this state said, we can't do that again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice or three times, shame on me. And so hence, that is why the Operation Safety Net, the request of the legislature for $35 million for this, which got all tangled up in politics, and the governor moved ahead anyway, which we knew he was going to do. And then you come to a point where, well, okay, what are we going to do in terms of a show of force anticipatory, not aggressively in terms of, obviously, of attacking protesters or anything of that sort? I don't think you would see that. But what kind of show of force are we going to have? How many National Guard are we going to have out? How many of the State Patrol and the other forces that are available? And clearly what they have done in this case, they've gone to level 3 of deployment of law enforcement forces, which was reserved for the opening argument or the closing argument portion of the Chauvin trial, which is probably going to happen next week. But they have gone to the level 3 earlier than that because of the events in Brooklyn Center. And I think, yeah, I mean, folks are going to, the key thing I think here, Joel, has to be, you have various groups that are in this for different reasons. You've got, I think, legitimately outraged members of the African American community. I think most people would acknowledge that they've got a beef that needs to be addressed in some way. Of that group, some are peaceful, some would perhaps go to violence. You have people from outside of Minnesota who are in that same category. Some are peaceful, some are violent, okay? And then you have various groups, let's call them anarchist groups or troublemaker groups, that are just looking for an opportunity, whatever, to let the other people take the heat so that they can actually stir things up. And there's a fair amount of evidence that those kind of groups showed up last summer in force in Minneapolis. So they're trying to say, hey, let's not, you guys don't show up.
Yep. Bill, we're going to do this again. Obviously, more news is coming, so I appreciate it.
Pleasure being with you. Okay, stay safe, everybody. We'll try to keep it calm down here.
Bill Werner, ladies and gentlemen, Minnesota News Network. When we come back, we're going to head to the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation. I'm sorry about that. Kaelee Knoell is going to join us right after this.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210. Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Watch No Filter with me, Debbie Schlussel, for no-nonsense, unfiltered analysis of the news that matters to you. You'll see engaging guests.
It began a 444-day nightmare.
Entertaining analysis. And it has everything to do with something that happened in history. And honest movie reviews. Trust me, this is just atrocious. No Filter with Debbie, weeknights at 10 p.m. Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Good to have you still in the rig as we head down the road. Kaelee Knoell is with us right now. Kaelee is a marketing manager with the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation. Kaelee, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Obvious question. You couldn't have been a great year last year. How is Medora and everything that happens with the foundation fared throughout COVID?
Honestly, last year we had a better year than we had planned for, which was exciting. And we're excited to have another really good summer in Medora this year. Attendance was higher than we expected. We were challenged to change some things to just make everything run better, and honestly we like a lot of the changes that we did make, and we're going to keep some of them. And so it was a good year to challenge ourselves and then think, wow, we would have never tried that if it wasn't for a year that forced us to. And so yeah, it was a hard year but a good year.
So give examples, because I've been to Medora, been to the musical, been a bunch of times, and this summer I hope to be out with a couple of my grandkids that are now old enough to appreciate it. So what's changed?
Yeah, so last year we said, how do we get more people into the theater to enjoy the show? And we added double shows on the weekends, so a 5:30 and an 8:30 show. And people loved it. Families love the 5:30 show because they can see the musical, they can have dinner, and they can still get the kids to bed on time. Or my parents come on out from Hazen and they can come out, they can see the show and head back home that night. And then people really like the 8:30 show because it's nice and dark and it just makes the show feel really alive. And then things like we let people out by row, which we liked. It really helps with people congregating on the mezzanine. You don't get that backlog of cars up in the parking lot. And so it just made everything flow really smoothly. And then we did seated dinner times at the fondue. So you don't have to show up and wait in line for your steak in 95-degree heat for 40 minutes before you get to the front of the line. It's like 20 people per time slot, and it just moves through so much slicker than before.
My guess is you're going to keep that one, Kaelee.
Yes, we definitely are.
How about the performers in the musical when you tell them they got to do a double shift? I would also guess they like it.
They do like it, and so this year we're actually doing something different. We won't have shows on Mondays because we're going to have those double shows, and so the performers are really excited about that. They've never had a set day off during the summer. Usually they have one day off a month, and so it still allows us to do the same number of shows all summer long, just in a little different way.
Okay. There's the sad part is, and I don't think this is why you call it the Burning Hills Amphitheater, but there was a fire. And there was a fire that got really close. Tell me what the conditions are there.
Yeah, so our firefighters and over 20 agencies were out there working really hard. We had no major damage to the amphitheater, no damage to the Chateau d'Amour, which is right down the hill. It really burned on the western side of Medora, but didn't touch anything catastrophic. And so burned through a lot of badlands, a lot of farmland and ranch land. But as far as buildings go, we are still standing all over Medora.
I talked to an individual that it's his job, his living, to sell campers. And of course, most of what I call the fish houses or the ice castles are turned into campers. A lot of people took that up after last year. They could get away with their family. And are you seeing more of that in Medora?
Yes, we are seeing more of that. And we had seen that growing a little bit before last year. We were sold out at our campgrounds 98% of the nights. And so we're jumping on that trend, and it prompted us to do another thing that we've said for years that we were going to do but never got around to. So this year we will be expanding the Medora campgrounds so that more families can come out and camp and enjoy Medora.
Well, I had the privilege once of meeting Harold Schaefer, and actually a number of times at Medora, and being at the Pitchfork Fondue with him doing the Pitchfork Fondue, which is something you never forget. You really never do forget, Kaelee. And you guys have a great product. You do. And when I said I want to bring my grandkids out, I wasn't fibbing on that. I hope to see you this summer.
Awesome. Sounds great to me.
Yep. It's family fun, ladies and gentlemen. If I were you, I'd head out there. It's a great way to basically still enjoy the great things about North Dakota. And of course, we all know, or at least hope, to be in that position where the nation is freed up. And when you go to Medora, you won't be wearing a mask. So some closing comments when we come back here down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Well, this trip down the road is just about over. We've almost reached our destination, just a couple of miles left here. But I got an assignment for you, and it's going to tie back into a conversation we had earlier, before on down the road. And that was a conversation about individuals that are transgender and the need for the legislature to take control of whatever they felt the situation was versus the North Dakota High School Activities Association, right? It's been my position, and it will always continue to be my position, that we have a governing body when it comes to transgender students, and we don't have a problem. And so a number of these legislators who get that playbook from the Koch brothers and others and enter it into every state because it makes them look like these conservative champions, they do it, they cause trouble, and you know what? Corporate America, which whether you like it or not, corporate America says, I don't want to do business in that state. Well, it's kicked back in again because Kathy Scraw and others decided, and she's from Ledgewood, my home district. Kathy Scraw decided, you know what, we got to pick on some more of these transgender students, even though it hasn't been a problem whatsoever. So here's my assignment, because the North Dakota legislature decided and voted on and gave exclusive rights to the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and said, you will get time in our public school system to be able to recruit. Okay? So that all sounds fine, right? The Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts have exclusive rights. They can come in. They're one of that patriotic groups that can come in and say, hey, you got to join the Girl Scouts. Hey, you got to join the Boy Scouts. So there's an acknowledgement by the North Dakota legislature that these are good groups. Fair? And of course, we know they've evolved. We know that there's been problems in the Boy Scouts and there's been problems in the Girl Scouts, but they've evolved. They've grown. They've looked at whatever problems they've had and they've changed some of their policies. And that's your assignment. I want you to go online and look at the Girl Scout policies. I want you to look at it, because what you're going to find is you're going to find a policy when it comes to transgender that is no way similar to what the North Dakota legislature says you have to do. You're not going to find it. I dare you to look at it. You're not going to find it. And yet the North Dakota legislature wants to single them out and say, go ahead and recruit, when their position is way different than the North Dakota legislatures. We'll talk about that tomorrow as we head down the road.